Three spine-chilling true suburban nightmares revealed. Disturbing tales of the cursed and sinister in the quaint Echo Park suburbs of Los Angeles. The night held ominous secrets. Homes stood silent, but of a sudden, the eerie sounds pierced through, strange noises echoing from shadows lurking, and the dark whispers of something sinister haunting the streets. Lisa, a single mother working night shifts at a convenience store, felt a chill curl around her spine every time she locked her door. It began as a simple bump in the night, but transformed into horrifying whispers that clawed at her nerve. They said the neighborhood was cursed. They said people had vanished, swallowed by darkness, that IT was supposed to be idyllic. Neighbors shared friendly waves, and the intoxicating scent of weekend barbecues floated through the air. But little did they know, beneath that friendly veneer lay a festering wound. Lisa's son, Jake, loved playing outside, unaware of the weight of dread suffocating his mother. Lisa's gut twisted with unease, especially since the night shadows danced more ferociously with each passing evening. Then came the rumors. "Did you hear? Mr. Thompson has disappeared," whispered Mrs. Harper over the fence. Lately, it felt as though the block was slowly draining, houses sprouting vacancy like weeds. As she stood, mute and trembling, Lisa felt the unsettling sensation of being watched, a pair of unseen eyes tracking her through the window blinds. Panic gnawed at her mind. Voices echoed the laughter at block parties now tinged with something unrecognizable. Halloween arrived, the air crisp with fall. The night air crackled as soccer moms and dads bustled about preparing for the annual block party, while Lisa focused on keeping Jake entertained. Yet dread pooled in the corners of her mind as the gatherings amplified her suspicions. Something wasn't right. Parents shot glances loaded with meaning, and laughter masked a nervous tension that was hard to shake. Then came the evening that shattered the facade. Amid the joyful chaos of children running, the scent of grilling burgers, and the banter of neighbors, Jake went missing. Panic exploded in Lisa's chest. Her heart raced louder than a drum. "Jake, where are you?" Fear twisted her voice as the party came to a dying hush. Shouts erupted, frantic faces scanning familiar grounds that now felt entirely foreign, filled with unspeakable dread. She sprinted through the throng of neighbors, their expressions etched with worry tinged with suspicion. "Did you see where he went?" she demanded, her voice breaking, the fear crawling up her throat. Moments stretched like eternity, whispers curled around her. Local legends, something sinister beneath the earth. "Never trust the shadows," they murmured, deepening her anxiety. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The darkness loomed as she stumbled through the crowd, her heart pounding louder than the festive music. Each familiar face she passed felt foreign, a potential threat. And just as the laughter began to fade into ominous silhouettes, a shadowy figure flickered at the edge of her vision. She turned, but it vanished. It was no longer just a fear of the unknown. The monster was real, and the whisper of allegiance was deafening. Just as Lisa readied herself for confrontation, a bone-chilling voice whispered from behind her, unraveling her world thread by thread. Every piece of safety flickered away, leaving only the hideous dread of the truth somewhere. In the dark, something was waiting. The scream of a child echoed through the crisp night air, seizing Lisa's heart with icy fingers. It pierced the chatter, stopping the block party cold. Breathless, she whipped around, searching for its source, dread swelling in her chest. The fading laughter felt like a distant memory, swallowed by a heavy silence that smothered the festive atmosphere. "Jake!" Her voice wavered as she stumbled away from the crowd of neighbors, frantic eyes darting from one shadow to another. The darkness seemed to pulse, throbbing with malice. She had to find him. The sound had come from behind the line of trees that bordered the park, a vast dark lane that felt like an abyss, where secrets lay thick as fog. With each step, the whispers clawed at her, echoing the neighborhood gossip that had tainted her mind for weeks. Every streetlight flickered ominously as if the night itself was warning her. This wasn't just darkness. It was something alive, something hungry. "Stay close, Jake," she called, each syllable dragging along a thread of hopelessness. Lisa burst into the park, breathing fast, her feet crunching on dry leaves. Shadows stretched unnaturally beneath the ancient trees, each bolt of fear tightening its noose around her throat. "Jake, please," she screamed again, but only silence answered. Then, something shifted in the corner of her eye. A rush of movement, just outside the beam of a flickering lamp. She dashed toward the sound, but it was just a raccoon scuttling into the underbrush. Lisa's heart sank, frustration igniting into wild panic. She turned back, and that was when she heard the laughter. Not the innocent giggles of children, but a sound warped, twisted into something grotesque, echoing through the trees. "Jake?" she whispered, trembling. The laughter halted abruptly, replaced by a deep stillness that settled over the park like a suffocating blanket. Lisa pressed forward, pushing through the thin veil of branches. Her breath came in short gasps, fear clutching her heart. And there, at the edge of the park, stood a figure. The silhouette of a child, backlit by the pale moonlight. "Jake!" Relief surged through her veins, but it was short-lived. The figure pivoted slowly, revealing wide, hollow eyes that seemed to absorb the light around them. A smile stretched across the child's face, too wide, too perfect. It wasn't Jake. The air thickened with dread as Lisa's instincts screamed at her to run. "Who are you?" She could barely breathe, the certainty of horror washing over her. The laughter erupted again, a cacophony of mirth that echoed from all directions. It felt like something unleashed, awakening long-buried terrors. As the laughter grew, shadows morphed, shifting shapes that danced around her, growing larger. Lisa stumbled back, confusion and fear gnawing at her sanity. "Where's my son?" She turned to flee, but the laughter encircled her, binding her with invisible chains. Behind her, a soft rustling broke the chilling stillness, like footsteps on brittle leaves. A voice slithered through the night, low and rasping. "You've entered a game, Lisa, and it's about to begin." Her pulse raced, breath hitching in absolute terror. She darted for the path, the laughter spiraling into a frenzied crescendo, each echo drawing closer, tighter. But as she ran, another soul-shaking whisper brushed against her ear. "You'll never leave until you find him." And suddenly, she felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her, hungry, waiting. As she dashed through the thick shadows, she unknowingly crossed the threshold into a terrifying reality where the search for her son morphed into a desperate fight for her own survival. What had she stumbled into? The true meaning of the curse lay ahead, buried in darkness. Would she unravel the truth, or become yet another whisper in Echo Park's haunted night? With a deafening clamor, the shadows surged closer, and Lisa realized the real horror was just beginning. What lay beyond the veil of terror was not just the fate of her son, but perhaps the end of everything she knew. She bolted, the icy gusts of wind biting at her skin as she sprinted down the winding path. Each footfall echoed like a gunshot, and the laughter morphed into a haunting symphony, trailing just behind her. The shadows contorted, teasing her with glimpses of movement from the corners of her vision. Lisa swallowed hard, wishing she could shake off this nightmare, but she could only push harder, driven by desperation. "Jake!" Her voice cut through the air once more, heart-wrenching as it slipped from her lips. The path ahead loomed dark, and every twisting branch appeared claw-like, reaching out to her with a hunger that matched her own. She needed to find him. She had to. As she neared the old playground, memories flooded back. Jake's gleeful shouts, the bright colors of the slides. But those innocent memories twisted with something darker now. The laughter, once joyful, now warped into sinister echoes that reverberated through her mind like a death knell. "Help me," a voice whimpered, faint and almost childlike. It reverberated within the chill of the night air, making her heart stutter. "Jake?" she whispered, hope flickering weakly. The voice led her, pulling her closer to an unkempt section of the park, where the trees loomed like ancient sentinels, watching, waiting. She hesitated, despair creeping in as the laughter swelled from every direction. There was something wrong, deeply wrong. Ahead, she spotted a dimly lit figure huddled near the base of an old oak tree. Her heart raced. Movement surged with the desperate need for her son. "Jake!" she called, louder this time, pushing through the failing resolve. But as she neared, the dimness wrapped itself around her, thickening with menace. The figure looked up, and the hollow eyes of the child reflected the moonlight, still devoid of warmth or innocence. "He is not here," the figure said, the voice chilling her to the bone. A perverse smile spread across its face, twisting her heart. "He is in the dark, deeper where no one can find him. Where? Where is he?" Lisa cried, choking on fear. But the figure only laughed, a braying sound that mingled with the echoes of the unseen laughter around her. Lisa recoiled, dread curling in her stomach like a serpent. The children of the park began to emerge from the shadows, each silhouette marked with that haunting, twisted smile, eyes reflecting nothing but darkness. It was a twisted game, she realized, entrapped in a reality that had devoured their innocence. Her pulse thundered in her ears as they closed in, the laughter growing louder until it felt like it vibrated through her very bones. Suddenly, Jake's laughter cut through the oppressive atmosphere, light and sweet. She locked eyes with the nearest silhouette, desperation boiling over. "Jake, where are you?" The figure's smile widened further, morphing into a mask of sinister glee. "The longer you play, the closer he gets." In an instant, dependency fueled her legs as if fire ignited beneath her. She turned to run again, frantically searching every corner for a sign of her son. The shadows erupted in echoing chaos behind her as she stumbled through the playground. Past the swings that swayed without wind, the laughter intensified. It morphed into a single voice, sing-song and chilling. "Come and play with us." Lisa, her heart raced, but deep down, beneath the terror pulsing in her blood, she felt something else, a dark pull, a strange compulsion to join the laughter, to give in. "No," she screamed at herself, fighting against it, tears blurring her vision. With each obstacle, each twist and turn, dread spread like an infection, clawing at her sanity. She felt the echoes closing in like a curtain, wrapping around her throat, squeezing tighter. Keeping her focus on the innocuous glow filtering through the trees, she ran toward it, hoping for some exit. But just as hope sparked, she stumbled into a clearing. No escape, only a circle of children, their forms flickering like shadows, laughing in unison. In the center stood a small, dark well, the blackness swallowing the light whole. One voice broke through the cacophony, Jake's sweet call. "Mom, help me." Fear knotted tight in her stomach. The realization that the game was now in full swing, and the stakes were higher than she'd ever imagined. Would she rescue Jake, or would she fall victim to the darkness herself? Tension thickened. The circle closed around her, and each laugh now felt like a promise of despair. She took a step back, goosebumps rippling down her arms as she gazed into the void of the well. As the laughter crescendoed, it blurred her vision, and for a second, she thought she saw Jake reach out from within the darkness. Grasping tightly to her last ounce of courage, Lisa took a step towards the well, heart racing. She was about to plunge into the depths of terror, not knowing what awaited her on the other side. But the last glimmer of hope flickered as the shadows laughed once more, and she realized there was no turning back now. What would she discover in that abyss? What awaited her in Echo Park's haunting embrace? The laughter swirled around her, thick and suffocating, a cacophony of predatory glee. Lisa hesitated at the edge of the well, the air heavy with an urge to leap into darkness, into madness. Every child's face glimmered with a twisted joy, their hollow eyes gleaming like polished stones. They reached for her, fingers outstretched in an inviting gesture, though their smiles screamed of something sinister. Mom, Jake's voice peeped again, a fragile whisper cutting through the chaos. It resonated from the depths of the well, an echo of need wrapped in despair. The sound twisted her insides, pulling forth the desperate mother who would stop at nothing. She stepped closer, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. The dark below seemed to pulse, alive with anticipation. She couldn't see him, but she could feel him. "Jake, I'm coming," she shouted, voice cracking, terror forcing her forward. The well loomed like an abyss, drawing her in with a siren-esque call. The children's laughter morphed into mocking jeers, swirling around her like a storm. Don't let the darkness take you. They sang in unison, their words tainted with glee as they swayed, circling her like wolves prepared to pounce. Join us. A palpable weight pressed upon her chest, and Lisa's breath quickened. She shut her eyes tight, grasping at the fraying threads of resolve. No, I want tea, let you take me. With shaking hands, she reached out towards the well, heart pounding with indecision. What lay beneath? Was it the safety of her son, or a relentless void that would snag her soul? Just as her fingers brushed the edge, she felt a surge of icy wind whip past her, a rush that carried a chorus of familiar voices, faint whispers of the children who had vanished. Beneath the fear and doubt, a name kindled in her chest. You'll never find him, a voice hissed from the shadows, cutting through the laughter like a knife. In an instant, everything went silent. The children froze mid-laugh, staring blankly ahead as if entranced. Lisa glanced back, her heart racing violently as a figure emerged at the fringe of the playground, a silhouette darkening the space. The laughter thinned, leaving only the sound of something clattering against the ground, like bones falling from a predator-esque grasp. The figure stepped into the faint moonlight, revealing a familiar shape. Lisa's breath hitched. Jake? But something was wrong. The boy she had searched for was altered, his eyes glinting with that same hollow brightness mirrored in the children around her. He opened his mouth to speak, and a chilling smile unfurled on his lips, echoing the sinister happiness that surrounded her. Mom, you came to play. Jake's voice was no longer sweet. It vibrated with a deep, unsettling resonance that seemed to resonate from every child's mouth. Melding together in eerie unity, Lisa stumbled back, heart sinking. No, this is wrong. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to turn away from the well, away from this twisted version of her son, who now stood in the glow of the moon. The other children closed in, their features now warped, mouths stretched wide into impossibly gleeful grins. What were they? Joyful echoes of innocence long lost, now transformed into something grotesque and predatory. The laughter erupted once more, cascading over her like a wave of dread, drowning her in the realization that the game they were playing had never been about fun. Jake! She cried desperately, panic clawing at her throat. But it was too late. The darkness began to shift and twist as if shifting to embrace her as she wheeled away. The laughter grew sharp, slicing through her resolve. Don't leave, they chorused, voices winding tight around her mind. The children's eyes glinted with a conspiratorial mirth that brought her to her knees. And then, just as she began to step away from the chaos, Jake shouted, "Help me, Mom. Don't go with them." A loud crack echoed through the night, a branch splitting underfoot. Her gaze locked on the well, the chill of despair creeping in again. The children surged forward, laughter now a frenzied roar, and Lisa, trembling and teetering on the brink, had one choice left to make. Would she leap into the darkness to save her son, or would she be consumed by the laughter that threatened to bury them all? Before she could decide, the figures lunged, reaching for her, dragging her closer to the edge of oblivion. "I'll find you, Jake," she screamed into the night, eyes wide with terror, trapped in the clutches of darkness. But the well only deepened, swallowing her cries, promising either the reunion she craved or the chaos that awaited in the unseen depths. What awaited them both on the other side? Would she step forward into the unknown, or would the darkness claim her forever? Lisa felt the world spin, the darkness beckoning her with a seductive pull. She stood at the precipice, the raucous laughter clawing at her sanity. Swallowing hard, she jerked back, but the children surged closer, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. There was no escape. They weren't just children anymore. They were an eerie amalgamation of desire and terror, reaching for her with hands that seemed to stretch. "Mom, please, don't leave me." Jake's voice echoed again, now sharp as glass and soaked in fear. In that moment, it cut through the sickness of the laughter, pushing her closer to a decision that felt impossibly large. The faces surrounding her were twisted caricatures of joy, their laughter ringing hollow, a sound that sparked dread deep within her gut. She scanned the ground beneath her, the crunch of twigs and dry leaves suddenly overpowering in the silence, feeling ground underfoot shudder with expectation. In a breathing lull, she seized the fleeting silence. "I'll come for you, Jake," she yelled, the words bursting from her lips like a desperate prayer. The children paused, their jagged smiles faltering for a heartbeat. Shadows flickered across their features, shadows that whispered secrets she dared not understand. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, they erupted into discordant laughter, swirling around Lisa like a tornado of malice. "Join us," they sang again, a siren-esque call that left her skin crawling. "You'll be happy here." But the truth snaked in. Happy people didn't linger in the grip of darkness. Happy people didn't abandon their own. The laughter petrified, freezing her blood as the children took one slow, synchronized step, seemingly inching towards her. The hairs on her arms stood straight, instinct rapidly replacing indecision. She darted back, heart racing, but the edge of the well claimed her senses. It felt as though the earth itself had begun to shift, tilting against her with an urge to spill her into the void. Her thoughts spun a maelstrom of doubt. What choice did she truly have? Kids, or the well? The well, or her son? "I'll find you," she screamed again, pleading the universe to hear her. Suddenly, with a bone-chilling cackle, one of the children lunged. Lisa barely dodged, the child's fingers brushing against her shoulder like ice. Panic flooded through her, igniting a flame of survival. The chorus of laughter crescendoed, rising like a wave meant to drown her soul. "You don't want to leave, Lisa. Stay and play forever." With her heart thundering, Lisa turned on her heels and ran, her breath ragged and sharp like broken glass. Behind her, claws of shadow reached out, the laughter swirling, overwhelmed by rage at her defiance. "Mom, don't leave me. They'll take me." Jake's voice echoed through the fabric of the night, more insistent, more terrified. With every echo, she could feel the weight of his fear crushed down. She skidded to a halt, torn between the spectral wails of the children and the desperate calls of her son. "Jake!" she wailed, feeling the light slip from her grasp. The air thickened, and a pungent scent twisted her stomach. It was sweet, decaying. A whisper dripped into her ear, almost soothing against the chaos. "Join us, Lisa. We can keep him safe. You'll never feel alone again." Digging deep, she snapped out of the spell, a flicker of resolve igniting. Feet planted, she aimed her eyes at the well, terror spiraling into fury. "You can't have him." She took a step forward, heart racing with the rhythm of her clumsy defense. But as she surged forward, time slowed, and dark figures coalesced, screaming for her attention. Would she plunge into the depths after her son, or was she navigating a trap laid by darkness itself? The laughter grew, wrapping around her like barbed wire as the decision loomed. Just then, something new emerged beneath the laughter, a palpable silence that threw an audience of shadows into relief. And deep inside the well, a pulse began, an ancient rhythm luring her closer. What was waiting for her at the bottom? Would she discover Jake's true fate, or would they both become part of the laughter that refused to fade? Lisa took a step back, terror squeezing her chest. The whispers grew, intertwining with the pulse emanating from the well. Jake, the name slipped through her lips like a prayer, a plea to the shadows. The laughter faded into a low, growling hum, the children circling her with hungry eyes, like wolves anticipating the kill. "Let him go," she shouted, summoning every ounce of courage within. But the shadows clung to her, their cold fingers brushing against her skin, a net of despair and madness. "Mom." The desperation in Jake's voice clawed at her heart like a wounded animal. How could she leave him? But with each breath, the sweetness of decay wrapped tighter around her, making her head spin. "No, you can't have him." She lunged toward the well, the icy breath of darkness taunting her every movement. The ground felt like it was shifting beneath her, like it was alive and hungry. Suddenly, one of the children darted forward, thin fingers outstretched. Lisa ducked, feeling the wind of the child's rush against her neck. Panic surged. She ran, heart thundering, feet pounding against the fallen leaves, slippery and thick with rot. But they were everywhere now, their laughter crescendoing into a cacophony around her, drowning out her thoughts. "Stay with us forever, Lisa," they chanted, a twisted lullaby that turned her stomach. Jake's cries sharpened, slicing through the laughter. "Mom, please. They're lying. Help me." Lisa stumbled, the weight of his fear crashing over her like a tidal wave. The children flanked her, their movements fluid and haunting, each step calculated. She turned, still clutching the darkness around her, feeling it try to swallow her whole. The well beckoned, whispering promises of safety and endless joy, but she knew better. It was a trap. Leave him alone, she screamed. With desperation coursing through her, she felt her lifespan twist with determination. She spun in a tight circle, trying to shake off the grasp of chilling shadows, the laughter seething around her. Join the fun, Lisa. Their voices melded into an eerie chant, a siren-esque call that aimed to fracture her sanity. She squeezed her eyes shut, images of Jake flashing through her mind as laughter, his smile, the way he wanted to be just like her, brave and bold. The silence of the well thrummed louder, vibrating with something dark, and when she finally opened her eyes, she saw it, a figure rising from the depths, pale and writhing. It looked like a child, but the features were wrong, grotesquely warped in the shadows. "Mom, come play." The voice, no, it was Jake, distorted and echoing from the abyss. No. The word ripped from her throat, a visceral rejection. But the shadows surged, a wave of darkness, constricting her breath. Something deep inside her flickered an ember of defiance. She had to fight. For Jake. For herself. Planting her feet firmly, she shouted against the noise, "I choose my son. I'll never give in." Just then, the ground beneath her cracked, the laughter froze like a shuddering pause, and the shadows halted. The pulse resonated again, a throbbing heart that beat in tandem with her own. It was calling her, demanding her surrender. Instinct kicked in. She turned and sprinted toward the well, adrenaline propelling her forward. "Jake!" she screamed, as voices rose to a fever pitch behind her. And then, she dove headfirst into the swirling darkness, expecting the embrace of the void, but a light pierced through the black, blinding and hot as she plunged deeper. She reached out, grasping for something, anything, hoping against hope that Jake was there, waiting for her. What lay beneath would change everything. Would she find her son, or would she be lost in the throes of madness forever? The plunge felt eternal, a freefall into chaos. Lisa's heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a prisoner desperate to escape. The blinding light engulfed her, swirling with violent colors, reds and blacks that tangled together like smoke. As her body tumbled through the void, whispers twisted through the air, soft and sinister. They called her name, each syllable a serrated knife that cut through her resolve. But then, right alongside it, she heard Jake's voice, desperate and clear, slicing through the cacophony. "Mom, help me." The sound was like a shot of adrenaline, igniting the ember of defiance in her. She clawed through the brilliance, stretching out her arms toward the echoes of his cries. The light faded as suddenly as it came, and Lisa hit something solid, the cold, damp earth. She gasped, scrambling to her feet. The smell of mold and wet stone filled her lungs. She was in a dark chamber, the walls slick with moisture and shadow. "Jake!" she shouted. Panic gripped her throat. She strained to hear, but the silence was thick, almost suffocating. "Mom!" The voice trickled from the darkness, low and mournful, echoing off the walls. It came from somewhere to her right. "Mom, please." Lisa pivoted, each step echoing like a hammer against the quiet. The ground felt wrong beneath her shoes. Tendrils of something alive danced and curled around her ankles, trying to pull her down, back into the earth. She shook her legs, but the grip only tightened. "Hold on, Jake." Each word was a battle against the despair creeping into her heart. She reached into the darkness, hands searching for him, feeling the slick walls, feeling the pulse of the well they'd fallen into resonating around her. "Help me, Mom." The sound was closer now, terrified and shaky. With renewed determination, she pressed forward, trying to orient herself in the darkness. The whispers returned, swirling around her like a storm, laughter mixed with cries, enticing her to give up and join them in eternal play. "No," she shouted, the denial ringing through the chamber. "I want to lose you." Suddenly, a shadow loomed in front of her, tall and warped, flickering in and out of sight. Lisa gasped, stumbling back. The figure wavered, and she blinked, struggling to focus as the contours sharpened. "Mom, it's me," the shadow pleaded. But it was wrong. The features that emerged were twisted, a grotesque mimicry of her boy. The face was pale, eyes sunken, a sinister grin stretching too wide. "I want to play forever." "Jake!" she screamed, desperation bubbling up. That is not you. You're not like this. The shadow lunged, and Lisa bolted sideways, barely dodging the grasp of damp, skeletal fingers that reached for her, the air thick with the scent of decay. She clawed through the darkness and suddenly tripped over something solid. She fell hard, scraping her palms on the rough stone. Peering into the depths before her, she was met with a small, wooden box. Embedded into the ground, a shroud of darkness veiled its edges. It bore the same eerie glow as the light she had just raced through. Just as she grasped it, the shadows surged, battering against her like a storm, and the children's laughter filled the chamber once again. Join us, Lisa. Let us take away the fear. The dark began to throb, pulsing in tune with the well's heartbeat. Terror tightened its grip on her chest, squeezing until she thought she might choke. Shadows writhed and beckoned her, trying to steal her resolve. With her heart thundering in her ears, she flung open the box. Its contents were opaque and shimmering. Inside lay letters, faded, yellowed with age. Words scrawled upon them seemed to resonate, thrumming with the echoes of forgotten cries. A chill swept through her, the realization dawning. This box held secrets not only of the well, but of what lay beyond. What would she unleash? What terrible truths waited to be revealed? With another shadow darting forward, fingers reaching for her, Lisa made her choice. She had to know. The last whisper she had heard was Jake's, and she couldn't turn away now. The moment hung in the air, thick with dread and anticipation as she breathed in sharply, prepared to uncover a monstrous legacy. But what if this was only the beginning? The moment she opened the box, a rush of icy wind swept through the chamber, carrying the scent of decay and something sweetly intoxicating like candy mixed with rot. The letters inside the box glittered with strange energy, almost as if they were alive, pulsating dimly as they tilted toward her. Mom, please. Jake's voice trembled like a fragile wisp, cut through the thick shadows that enveloped her. The letters began to shift, the words dancing across the parchment, rearranging themselves into a coherent message that felt charged with dread. They never leave. The realization struck Lisa like a blow. What had she stumbled into? This place, this well, was a prison, not just for her son but for countless others. Children lost to the darkness. Her heart raced, hammering against her ribs, a desperate signal screaming what she already feared. Jake! She called again, panic boiling over. I'm coming. I want to leave you. But the shadows were relentless, twisting and weaving through the dim light like a living tapestry of despair. Each word glimmered ominous in her hands, causing her fingers to tremble. Suddenly, she could hear them whispering again, hungry, eager sounds that sought to envelop her mind. Join us, Lisa. They cooed, the voices warped and sweet. Forever. Lisa clenched her teeth, fighting back the seductive call. She focused on the letters, trying to make sense of them. Scrutinizing the inked strokes, something else emerged. Fragments of lives lost, pleas for help, offers for escape. Sacrifice. The well demands. Her breath came fast, the cold grip of terror wrapping tighter around her throat. Distant laughter floated in on the damp air, the sinister echo of children playing a sound that clawed at her sanity. The shadow of her son shifted nearby, shifting like a mirage, beckoning her to join. Help me, Mom. His voice was drowning in sorrow. Was it really him? Or was the darkness taking shape, using his likeness to trap her in its cold embrace? A deep growl erupted nearby, a sound not of this world, reverberating off the damp rock walls. It echoed like a taunt, a reminder that she was not alone in this graveyard of souls. Panic surged again, and she scrambled to find Jake's true form amid the chaos. Get away from him, she shouted, as she held the letters closer, feeling their secrets pierce through her skin. The shadows erupted, unfurling in angry swells, reaching for her as their laughter turned to rage. She pressed the letters to her chest, grounding herself, grasping at any ounce of courage left within. Unfolding them, she read on, words spilling forth like the ink was blood. To escape, one must replace what they desire the most. It was a riddle shaded in a desperate plea for survival. Could she save Jake and herself? The shadows drew closer, the air crackling with dark energy. Shapes began crawling along the walls, the faces of lost children twisted in horror. They seemed to cry out, caught in an eternal game forever playing, forever trapped. Clenching her jaw, she felt the weight of a decision hanging in the air. What if she had to sacrifice something or someone that she loved? The thought twisted her gut, but she had to act. For Jake, no matter the cost. Suddenly, the figure of Jake surged forward, his face always shifting, morphing from a smile to a sneer. "Mom, please just let go. Join us." "No," she screamed, backing away, dragging the box closer. The walls seemed to pulse and shrink around her, angered at her defiance. Gripping tight, she prepared herself. "Mom." His voice cracked, splintering her resolve. "Just let me go." With one last glance at the box, she took a deep breath and made her choice. Drawing on her love, she thrust the letters into the air, shouting, "If it's a choice, I choose you, Jake." In that moment, a blinding light erupted, tearing through the shadows like a knife, and Lisa felt herself being ripped away from the darkness. The laughter morphed into something more sinister, a distorted sound that echoed endlessly in the void as the world twisted around her. A single thought clawed at her mind: was she truly saving her son, or sealing their fate? With a final scream, the words of the letters faded, but not before she caught one last phrase. "The firstborn will not escape." Then everything went dark. What lay ahead? Would they be free, or damned forever? Lisa gasped as she emerged into a world of blinding colors, a dazzling display that felt alien against the dark. She stumbled through it, disoriented, and clutching her chest as the pressure of the shadows released their grip. But something was wrong. "Mom." Jake's voice drifted, eerily calm, echoing from the corners of her mind. "Where are you?" The vibrant brilliance faded, revealing a familiar street, but it was twisted, warped. The houses loomed larger, their windows hollow eyes, watching her with an all-seeing gaze. The sun hung low, casting long, jagged shadows that danced like wild spirits. Lisa's heart thudded wildly, fear clawing its way back in. "Jake?" she called, collapsing against a fence, splintered wood biting into her palms. "Where are you?" She squinted into the distance, where a figure flickered between the rows of houses. The unmistakable shape of her son darted back and forth, but just out of reach. Is he taunting her? A laugh echoed through the desolation, familiar yet utterly wrong, the chill burrowing deep within her bones. "Come on, Mom. It's just a game." Jake's voice rang again, a clear taunt. A shiver raced through her spine. "This is not funny," she cried out as the shadows crept closer, whispering promises laced with malice. "Help me. I'm coming." Lisa sprinted down the street, urgency driving her as dread washed over her. Every passing car seemed frozen in time, all the faces inside distorted into grotesque masks of laughter. They were all children, twisted, mocking, and unyielding. "No," she yelled, but they just laughed louder, drowning her in their mockery. The houses closed in on her, their doors swinging open of their own accord, revealing nothing but darkness. "Go away," she screamed, feeling the weight of shadows bundling up around her feet, dragging her back towards where she thought she last saw Jake. "Mom." The clear, distorted plea froze her blood. Panic erupted, and she pushed through the shrieking voices, her heart a thunderstorm in her chest. "I'm coming." But as she drew closer, the air grew thick with the scent of copper and ash, her instincts screaming that something terrible awaited her. The street morphed again, the houses leaning ominously, closing ranks, pushing her towards an old playground she hadn't seen in years. "Do you remember?" The shadows chimed, their voices dripping with glee. "The swings, the sand, and what happened here." Each word was a stab, pushing her deeper into the dark nostalgia. Lisa's breath quickened as she approached the ruins, her memories flooding back forgotten games, laughter, and the day everything turned into chaos. A swing creaked, slow and deliberate, as if someone was waiting for her, ready to play. "Jake!" she cried out, the urgency making her voice rise higher than before. "I need to find you. We can get out." But shadows wrapped around her, their fingers brushing against her skin like icy breath. "That's not how it works, Lisa," they hissed, now filling the air with a sinister melody. "To reunite, there must be more. You don't know anything," she shouted, brushing the shadows desperately, trying to push through. "I will find him." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her feet. A figure burst from the darkness, a twisted reflection of her child. Jake's face morphed, half smiling, half mocking, his eyes glinting with a malevolent light. Mom, you'll never escape. The well hasn't gone anywhere. You think you can save me? Lisa's heart sank, panic surging in her throat. What do I need to give up? Tell me. You already know, his distorted voice echoed, laughter curling around her like fog. What do you desire the most? As reality began to splinter around her again, Lisa's breath caught in her throat. It all clicked, the letters, the whispers. It demanded a sacrifice. Mom, the figure faded away, leaving her feeling hollow. Lisa staggered back, but the shadows surged, threatening to swallow her whole. Help him, Jake's faint voice urged, barely making it through the wall of darkness. But what are you willing to lose? At that moment, she understood the horrific truth. The game was far from over. Choices loomed ahead, a gamble for souls. Would she take the risk to save Jake, or lose herself forever? With shadows extending their hands towards her, she whispered, I'll do anything, and the laughter grew louder, echoing as everything plunged back into darkness, leaving her with a single thought: what shadows would she have to face to save her son? Lisa's resolve crashed against the tide of fear building within her. She could still hear Jake's voice, desperately echoing in the corners of her mind, the twisted laughter swirling around her like a tornado, threatening to consume her whole. What do I need to give up? She demanded, standing firm in the onslaught of shadows. Everything you hold dear, the dark chorus sang, their words dripping with mockery. Laughter burst forth, drowning her thoughts in a sea of despair, but there was no choice left. Lisa clenched her fists, her nails biting into her palms, grounding her in the moment. I refuse, she shouted into the void, hugging the weight of the box to her chest. I will save my son without losing myself. As if in response, the laughter cut abruptly, and silence descended, thick and suffocating. Shadows flickered momentarily, revealing glimmers of faces, children's faces, lost and hollow. Hope drained from her. Join us, become like us, they whispered, and Lisa felt their energy pulsing around her like a serpent, slithering toward her with an insatiable hunger. No, she screamed, pushing against the darkness with all her might. She couldn't let this be the end. Panic coursed through her body, but amidst the chaos, she found clarity and anchor tethering her to her mission. Keeping her focus sharp, she began to piece together the words from the letters. What do I desire the most? She murmured, her mind racing. She could feel the pulsating heartbeat of the chamber, the well's call, but she needed to pinpoint her truth. No more games, she declared suddenly, defiance lighting her passion. The shadows murmured, shifting anxiously, urging her to back down. But Lisa felt something within her awaken, an unyielding power fueled by love and desperation. She thought of Jake, his laughter, and the warmth of his embrace. He was her son. No matter what happened, she would never abandon him. In a heartbeat, Lisa plunged her hand into the box, fingers brushing against the letters, feeling the ancient energy vibrating beneath her touch. It thrummed against her skin, urging her to release her light, her hope. I choose love, love for my son, love over darkness. I refuse to let fear control my choices. The darkness recoiled at her assertion, a howling wind sweeping through the chamber, shaking its very foundations. Shadows trembled and whirled, their fury met with Lisa's unwavering resolve, illuminating the space like a beacon. Jake, she cried out again, her voice empowered, echoing against the cavern's stoic walls. I'm coming. Suddenly, the air shifted, a tunnel of light forming in the center of the darkness, a path leading out. Shadows shrieked and thrashed around her as if trying to resist, but Lisa pressed on with newfound determination, striding towards the illuminated passageway. Tendrils of darkness clawed against her, hissing and turning rebellious, but they met with the dazzling brilliance radiating from within her. I will not be afraid. I choose love. As she ran, she could hear Jake's faint, chilling laughter weaving through the shadows, desperate but playful, echoing back from the depths. Mom, hurry. It was music wrapped in despair, drawing her closer, guiding her beyond the brink of terror. With each step, hope surged, fortifying her spirit. The laughter twisted into something sweeter, beckoning her onward like a maternal whisper, weaving threads of warmth through the veil of darkness. Breaching the threshold, Lisa felt the powerful burst of light engulf her, wrapping her in an embrace that shattered her fears, igniting her connection to Jake. Together, she screamed, breaking through the shadow's grip. Suddenly, she stood breathing heavily in the park, tree branches dancing animatedly under the glow of the street lamps, the night air electric with possibility. How could it be? Then, through an opening formed by the shadows, she saw him. Jake stood timidly at the edge of the clearing, eyes wide, a hesitant smile breaking through the facade of fear. "Mom," he burst forth, relief flashing in his expression. "Jake." Time blurred as she sprinted towards him, exhilarated. She embraced him fiercely, her heart bursting with love. All at once, the laughter faded into whispers, a fleeting sunset swallowed by the horizon. "No more games," she told him, wiping the tears from her eyes, their warmth mingling with the cool night air. And as they stood there, a luminous light surrounded them, echoing the shadows fading into the night. Relief blanketed her as they turned away from the playground. Together, they stepped out of the darkness and onto the sidewalk, one step closer to freedom. "Can we go home?" Jake asked, looking up at her, the innocence in his voice igniting joy within. Lisa took a deep breath, a smile breaking free on her lips. "Yes, my love, we're going home." As they walked, the air had shifted, and the shadows melted behind them, retreating back into the void they had been trapped in for far too long. They would tell the story of love conquering fear, of a mother's power unwavering against the dark, but the voices could still be heard in the distance, whispering of a curse that lingered beneath the surface, something they would always carry. Until the next time now, listen closely, because I need you all to do something right now. Subscribe immediately to the channel. You need to stay updated, especially with more exclusive stories just around the corner. Smash that like button now. Seriously, it feeds the algorithm and helps keep our community alive. Flood the comments section. Share your reactions, theories about the ending, and anything else you want to discuss. And for the love of all things spooky, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of your support in this wild journey we're on together.